The following program is rated TV MAL. It contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion advised.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Be Calm Rewind podcast. I am your host, the Big Llama. We'd like to talk about movies. We review our favorite movies, or even sometimes movies that we don't like. Today is a movie that I know I have grown up with, Mortal Kombat from 1995, the original Mortal Kombat that came out in the theaters. One of the first video game movies back in the day that really got me excited. And I get to share this with my co-host from the Sunday Night Live stream, Blackout AD. Blackout, welcome to the show, sir. Welcome to Be Calm Rewind
the
podcast.
Greatest fighting game movie.
I think it serves. I mean, it's a bit of like I rewatched it today before we did our show, and
you're lucky. I wish I did. I honestly, the way the day played out, I was like, damn, we're not gonna even record this. I'm not watching it until we need to record, but I'm glad you did, because at least, again, there's probably things you're going to remind me of throughout the thing. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. This movie, it was one of the first movies, and I want to point out what I'm wearing and the reason I'm wearing these things. Again, this is a podcast, so you probably won't see this, but if you're watching the video replay, I'm wearing my South Broward High School shirt. It's my high school shirt because this came out when I was in high school. I went to the movie theaters to go see it. I was very, very excited. And this actually was the first time that I saw people cosplay. I saw actual people dressed up as Mortal Kombat characters going to the movies, which up until this point, never seen it before. They had a whole thing. They had a whole the movie theater. The workers, the employees were dressed up in Mortal Kombat characters. They had people in there, with all kinds of get up. It was just an exciting time, and it was great.
You saw this in theaters?
I saw this in theaters. I saw this when it came out in theaters. I was so excited. I think I went to a midnight screening. So obviously back in the day, midnight screenings were the shit.
And all right, so this is dope for me because this is my favorite. This is literally, if I made a top 5 of like favorite movies, this would easily be 1 through 3. Like depending what other movies I really think of and like, put on that list. But this movie could potentially be like my favorite movie of all time in my life. Like it has the most sentimental value, like in terms of like just where I was and stuff. But obviously, like we both enjoy going to the theaters and stuff. This is a movie that I didn't get to experience in theaters that I wish. So it's kind of intriguing that you got to see this because now were the games, like the arcade games, popular, like that popular at this point, like when the movie came out?
Yeah, and so this is the great thing, right? Like they were super popular. All the video games were. This is when they had the M rating, right, on video games. So like Mortal Kombat was like this unattainable thing. Like if you played it, right, your parents were a little loose, right? And if you got the blood code or whatever. So Mortal Kombat, just in the fact that it was so violent and that it was so popular, made it this community. Like honestly, like it was so big that it came out on every console. When we first played this game, man, it was like the first game that had realism in it. Like you had the skin characters who are mapped into the game, and so it's like it was amazing to see. There's noises behind me. It's fireworks. It's fireworks. So
it's like somebody knocking at your window, dude. It's the grandma from Mortuary's assistant.
No. But yeah, it was the first game that like featured that realistic look. Yeah. And obviously after that, Pit Fighter and a couple other games like copied the format, but it was the first one. And so it was hugely popular, huge. Now, I was going to tell you the one thing that in watching it now versus what I did back then, I didn't know the lore back then. So the movie, to me, everything in the movie was brand new. And so I experienced it as I'm learning about this world. I never. I mean, think about it, man. Like, do you really like read the side of the arcade box? You know, because there was a whole chapter thing that tells you about
Every
the
character,
fighting.
yeah.
Yeah, and obviously some people did, but I never did. So when I went to see the movie, brand new, it was fucking brand new.
Yeah.
So
I mean, to
but
me,
it was huge.
for me at least, especially in '95, I I was cognizant when I watched it. Like I remember the first couple of times I seen it and like how I felt. So I don't remember exactly how old, but it had to be like 97, like 98 maybe, or like I watched the movie. But I knew about the games, but this was like my introduction to Mortal Kombat and been a fan ever since. Obviously, this is a dope episode because of how we started our podcasting adventure together with
Yeah.
the new Mortal Kombat, which I'm sure we'll do a BCon because we gotta do Annihilation at the very least.
Oh
We have
yeah.
to. That's
Yeah.
gonna be a good episode. But I'm happy to do this one because again, it has a lot of nostalgia for me. But hearing your perspective of it, because like you said, maybe people weren't super into like. I mean, you had to be probably hardcore, especially like the people that are cosplaying knew the lore probably. You know what I'm saying? For the most part. But the movie itself is not very lore based, if you will. Like, I mean, Scorpion and Sub-Zero, easy characters that kind of just like in the movies, they're kind of just like side characters that they don't really give shine to. They don't really tell you too many backstory. Like besides like Shang Tsung saying like they were mortal enemies, but they're under
Right.
mind control. Like that's kind of like their easy way out. I wonder if it was intentional for them to like make it as like cookie cutter-ish as possible to get like masses into it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they didn't want. I honestly, in rewatching it now, it is a direct direct copy of Enter the Dragon. The entire movie. Obviously, the difference is Bruce Lee versus the characters in Mortal Kombat, but the setup is exactly the same. All these different fighters coming together on an island. They're fighting on Shang Tsung's island, and in Enter the Dragon, they're fighting on Han's island. It is almost like beat for beat. The first quarter of the movie is Enter the Dragon, which I didn't know, and now watching it was pretty neat the second time around, or not the second time. I've watched it many times, but watching it before this, I just kind of thought, wow, that's exactly the same movie, like the same tropes. But I think the where they got it right in the movie was that you wanted to see the fighting. You wanted to see them fight, and they fought. And that was the key. That was the key to everything.
I mean, they had really great fights. Now, I do think there were like missed opportunities in some fights. There could have been more fights. Obviously, it could have been a little bloodier. They went for the PG-13 rating, which I understand why. Especially because of the game having having the backlash it was with like the mature rating and everything like that. So I could see why they went for that PG-13. Now, do you remember like the reaction to the movie? Because if you were in high school then, you know what I mean? Like you were more tapped in. Like, I mean, I feel like high school kids, especially high school kids, are like most tapped into the culture. Like, I mean, they got nothing to do, you know, like that's how I felt at least. So do you remember what like the reaction was?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was. People loved it. People loved the movie, and they thought it was amazing. Right? They thought it was a great film. The CGI was relatively new for us at that time. Right? Like we had the best new thing was like Lawnmower Man and all these other weird movies that had.
One thing about the
CGI.
first one compared to Annihilation, that it was more practical. Like there was a lot. I mean, obviously Goro. They said it took like 8 people to control an arm or some shit. Like
yeah,
there was a lot of people that worked on. Yeah.
No. I mean, there were some things in it like that. Looking at it now, right? You're like, wow, we could have definitely used some touch ups, right? But honestly, when it came out, I was blown away. We just didn't. We've never seen it like a video game adaptation get to the movies and be somewhat close to accurate. It wasn't accurate, obviously, but I mean, it was something that we translated and said this is really really good. So we loved it, man. It was great. I don't know how much it made in the theaters. I think it was successful enough, right, where they started filming the next movie. But it was a big hit, and I remember everyone talking about it. And but back then we didn't have the 24-hour media scope, right? That that like breaks down every movie and tells you how good or bad. And we just went to the movies and we talked to our friends about it. Like, hey, you see that Mortal Kombat movie this weekend, you know?
Word of mouth.
And that's all we talked about was Mortal Kombat. And then we went for multiple viewings. We went back to the theater with our friends who didn't see the movie on the midnight showing or whatever. But yeah, man, it was amazing, man. It was a glorious time because the video games were getting better, right? The consoles were getting better, and then while we had movies, man, it was like prime. We loved it, man. It was great.
I mean, even like, so how I got introduced to it was like my dad and his sister, which like to this day my aunt says like to her one of her favorite moments is me watching the movie and like copying Johnny Cage, like I'm gonna kick your ass or some shit like that. Like, and I just repeated the words. She's like, oh no, like he's seen this movie too much. But she would like play it for me all the time to the point where she literally told me, and like shout out to my aunt, I love her, but she literally told me she hid the movie because my grandpa would record like all the movies on like VHSs. Like he would record everything. He would watch like TNT and all that shit and have all the movies. But she literally hid it for like, and I remember there was like 2 years. She was like, yeah, I don't know where they are. I don't know where it is. I don't know where it is. And I'm like, yo, where's the movie? Like, let me watch it.
Well, and this movie is obviously before DVDs, DVDs were released. So the VHS tape was the most coveted thing, right? And I think at the time in 95 or 96, when it finally came to VHS, it wasn't as expensive. Like it was like, $20 or whatever, but those things flew off the store shelves, man. Like people had their copy. And because there was such a huge backlash from the government, it made it more popular. Like, oh, we're popularizing these games. It's awesome. It's an awesome feel.
Fun fact: the Mortal Kombat soundtrack or the theme song to the movie is the first ever #1 EDM hit.
What?
Yeah, ever. Which is crazy.
I mean,
it's like
the song was everywhere.
Oh, the song was fantastic. To this day, it comes on and you're like, the song's great.
The song, and then there was remixes, and they had, and then there was the version that had
I wanted to play
character.
At my funeral, dude. I need that song to play at my funeral.
Like when they pull up your picture, Mortal Kombat.
I need it.
No, that song was great. It was, again, it's a time capsule, right? Because if you really think about it, that was the sound in 95, 96, 97. That was that techno and all that stuff was sort of
even like 2000, 2001 with like Fast and Furious, like
right.
It had some like techno, like, Blade.
Oh yeah,
fucking vampire techno play. That's another one we could do a Be Kind. I enjoy Blade.
For sure.
I have good memories of that. But all right, let's watch the trailer. I want to see. I want to get my bearings on it. Let's dive into it. I'm excited. Enough playing with it,
No, for sure. And I want to talk about the characters and the casting because that's key for this movie. All right, let's watch the Mortal Kombat 1995 official trailer.
In case you're blood.
I'm telling you, man.
Nah, that was. I mean, obviously, it did not age well. Trailer's ass right now, but I bet back in the day that shit was fire.
I mean, when the music says the name of the character in the same voice that you hear when you make the player selection from the arcade game, it's fucking phenomenal. You're just like, damn, this is exactly what I want. And you're right, it didn't age well, but I was gonna say, like, this is one of those movies that I would like they've done it on a couple of movies. And I know that people who have the ownership rights to the movie don't give a fuck about the movie, but like, give it the fucking George Lucas treatment. Somebody go there and do some special effects rework and fucking make this. Like, there are some scenes that if you took and you just re-edited a couple of things, man, it would take it to the next level. Like this would be a classic, right? It is a classic, but I'm just saying, like, I want that. I want that so bad. I want somebody just touch this movie and fix a couple of minor things that I kind of had issue with, right? But man, it's it is what it is. It's a '90s movie. It has its '90s charm.
Oh,
to it.
yeah. That's literally what it feels like. Like it's a '90s
Yeah.
movie. But again, it did a lot of things right. Like as a game lover, it did a lot of things right. It did a couple things as a Mortal Kombat lover. There's some things where you're like, the movie's really good, but it was missing again more lore. It needed to me. It's so rich in lore. Now again, at that time there was no thought of like now, like if that movie came out now, if Mortal Kombat this first the one that we did in 2021 or 2022 that we did the review on, if that came out now and that was the first Mortal Kombat property, they would have in their head a universe already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They would build the lore properly. At that time, they were just making a movie. And like you said, it could be very much a Enter the Dragon like reskin, if you will. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
this is the base of it, but let's make it around Mortal Kombat because again, the casting was really good. Johnny Cage was really well. Obviously, Shang Tsung was so good that they put him in the games. You know, now he's canon in the games as Shang Tsung. Liu Kang to me, you know, was a really good Liu Kang. Even Sonya was a really good. And you know, Cameron Diaz was supposed to be Sonya Blades.
What?
Yeah, and she got hurt in the training, like leading up to the movie, and then they brought this girl in.
Yeah. Oh no, I love Bridgette Wilson. She was like mental save it in the bank type woman. I mean, she was.
Oh wow.
Dude. Any
yo, you better put your kids to sleep. We didn't say that at the top of the episode.
Hey, I said mental. Sleep. I said mental. You take, use your imagination. No, but
yeah, I'm sure you will, dude.
No, but any movie she was in, I was like, damn. I saw her as just this beautiful woman. So the fact she was in it, I wasn't disappointed.
So were you excited when he had her tied up for no reason in the tower when he challenged her to a fight and then tied her up in some fucking barbarian wearing costume? Like, what the fuck? Is this what they wear in Outworld, dude? You changed her?
Exactly.
You made her put this on and tease her hair out?
Jesus. The one bad casting and to this day was Raiden.
No.
Was Lord Christopher Lambert.
It was amazing.
From the Highlander series, this guy was amazing. This guy was ass.
No, it wasn't, dude. The charm, he had charm and charisma as Raiden. Our other, like, honestly, they try to make not they try to make, they make Raiden accurate to his ethnicity and like his culture now, and he's so boring.
Yeah,
like Raiden is a boring character. Otherwise, he's just like a straight edge dude. Yo, Christopher Lambert had charisma. He said, I don't think so. Like,
flash the eyes.
He had jokes. I mean, remember, like, one of my favorite moments is when he's watching the fight and somebody does something good and he like punches the soldier, like, oh, my bad. Like, I got too carried away. Like, he was the only one having fun on the set.
Him and Bridgette Wilson were the only two like bona fide stars that were in other movies, like big movies, like those. Like he was the big draw because he was in the Highlander franchise, and I think I've never watched any of those movies, but I think those are incredibly successful. But yeah, he was the one big draw, and I guess they needed that. But
he was
I wasn't a fan of his. That's all. But I get what you're saying about the charisma though, because the new Raiden in some of these adaptations and movies and whatnot is not that exciting.
Think about it. The Raiden from this 2021 Mortal Kombat was boring. There's nothing.
Right.
Give me a quote from the movie.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, but I bet you when he said when Raiden's like everybody stopped. He was like, "We're gonna get through now,"
Yeah.
But obviously, it wasn't accurate. It was just like you said. They needed some kind of star power. I think he did good for the role, and I think he was a good balance to like how good Shang Tsung was, and like how serious Shang Tsung was. Like there was nothing. I think you felt the presence of Shang Tsung. Like this was a dangerous guy, and Raiden's like it was like a good contrast, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Shang Tsung shapeshifting into different characters, and he was just menacing, man. Like and that is forever my Shang Tsung. I don't see anybody else. Like when I think of that character, I think of I can't pronounce his name. I have his name right here, but Tagawa, I think his name is. But damn, man, and I love the fact that they put him in the game. Like he's in the game. Liu Kang, I thought was always Liu Kang. Like I was convinced that yeah.
Who the fuck is his brother? I don't know, dude.
His brother was a fucking casualty of backstory.
Bro, his brother's not even in the lore.
And his brother was mid. He was a mid fighter. What are you doing entering the tournament, man? He's getting his ass whooped by Shang Tsung. Like he wasn't even like putting up a fight. Like at least punch him in the face or something.
Listen, if somebody does what Llama says and edits this, edit the brother out, dude. He played no part. The brother was put into the movie to get him to the tournament, to get Liu Kang to the tournament. There was no reason the brother was there. Even at the end of the fucking tournament, when Shang Tsung fights him and Shang Tsung turns to his brother, I'm like, oh my, here we go, dude. He's like, oh, you left me. He's like, no, I couldn't. And then gets his ass beat. Like, no, dude. No, he just clearly triggered. He was literally Shang Tsung. What
exactly.
What the fuck?
Come on, man. Your brother's not back.
Your brother's dead, bro. It's like The Sopranos, dude. It's over.
Exactly. And you know, like I said, it was interesting because, like I said, when I watched it, didn't know how bad a man Shang Tsung was. Got the message loud and clear, especially when he morphed into that skeleton face, that scary ass face in the first frames.
Yeah,
like that was insane. But again, how do we get all these guys together? And again, it's pulling them each of their stories, and we got a little backstory. Like we knew Liu Kang was a Shaolin monk, or he was raised in the Shaolin temple.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like because they were there at the temple. And what I find
they just had too many characters to really flesh them out. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. And what I found funny is that the chief priest is he's the chief priest in every American version of a Japanese film. I noticed that he was in Ace Ventura. He was in this movie, and he plays the same Shaolin monk character in almost every movie you see him in. And I saw him. I was like, oh dear God,
that's hilarious.
But yeah, Johnny Cage's intro was really good too. Like showing him in Hollywood and doing the stunts. Kind of showed off a bit of his fighting skills.
Showed that he wasn't like a pushover, but shout out, he was a good Johnny Cage. Shout out Linden Ashby. He was in Teen Wolf, one of my favorite shows. He was a father.
Oh, was he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. See, a lot of these guys, I didn't know what else they were in. Like Liu Kang, I've seen him in a couple of different movies. I call him Liu Kang because I don't know Robin. His name is Robin Shou, but I've seen him in a couple of movies, and every time I can't shake the character, I'm like, that's Liu Kang. Yeah. And that's bad. That's bad. Like sometimes you get typecast. Like you're the Liu Kang.
You just play. I mean, you just play a good. It's like Harry Potter. You just play a character that's too iconic.
Right.
And think about it. Well, it's also because how big the movie was too.
It was huge. It was huge. But I think it was also the first exposure to him as an actor. At least from what I've seen. Like that was like the big step off for him to sort of be in the limelight. And then he was in a bunch of movies after that. The other thing too, I didn't know this, but I was reading about how they came up with the game. It was inspired partly by Big Trouble in Little China, which came out in like 1984, 85. Yeah. And almost the same characters are in that.
Yeah. Isn't there a guy named Raiden?
There's a Raiden type, right, that controls the lightning, and he flies with the lightning, and he has the hat and everything. But I went and after I found out, I was like, I went back and watched that movie too, and I was like, damn, it's not a direct ripoff, but it's like inspired by. Yeah. So there are inspirations there. Let's see, they had Shang Tsung, they had Sonya Blade, which again were the OG characters. Then they introduced the characters from MK2. Kitana was in this one, right? Because she wasn't the original.
It's fine. It's Puerto Rican. Shout out Puerto Rican.
Oh, was she? Yeah. Talisa Soto. And then Kano was an interesting character.
Kano was another iconic one because Kano was never meant to be Australian until that movie, and then they adapted it in the lore itself that he was.
Oh, that's right, because he was an American fighter, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken from the description. But yeah, he did a great job. That dude was ripped, man. That dude was like,
wow, dude, that's the first thing you said.
He
was ripped, dude.
He was ripped
sexy as hell, dude.
the
eye patch did it for me.
I didn't say sexy as hell. I just said he was ripped. But no, Kano.
He died like a cuck, though.
Is he?
No, I said he died like a cuck.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, he said, yeah. Give me a break.
Okay.
Snap
classic. That's classic.
Let's see. They had Scorpion and Sub-Zero, which were played by two different, obviously, actors, but
they both had great scenes. Even though I was complaining about their lore, but they both had great fight scenes.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Scorpion was played by an American, is like Chris Kasama, and then Sub-Zero was Francois Petit.
Dude,
so
they didn't even say a word.
No, exactly. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter who you are if you can only see your eyes. Like, who gives a shit who is underneath there? But
context.
That's true. But what was interesting is that they gave you what you wanted from the game from these two characters. You had the get over here, Scorpion, releases that. Now, I wasn't a fan of the thing coming out of his hand, right? To like be this little character thing that like eats things. I wasn't a fan of that, but in watching it back today, it works. It works in the movie. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many iterations of Scorpion that that it's just with a fishing dagger or something that like he just throws. But it worked in this movie, and it again, as a kid watching this, I could give a shit. I was like, this is pretty awesome. He's got this thing coming out of his hand.
But at the time too, they didn't really know what it was in the game. Like, you just saw he threw something and like pulled you back. So they kind of interpreted it how they wanted. I don't know. It's weird because again, this is my introduction to it, like mainly. So to me, it's kind of like what Scorpion has, and it's weird that it's a kunai, which is the actual tool. But like, it's weird that it's that. Like, even like they made an emphasis in the new Mortal Kombat movie to like show him use it beforehand and show what he was capable of, how he was capable of using it, and why he would use it like when he dies. But again, like for this movie particularly, it did work. Like, now it was crazy when it like crashed into the tree and then he ripped it out and shit. That was nuts. But that was the last time we seen it, so it hurt him kind of.
And the scenery though was great. Like the whole woods. Yeah. Oh, that backdrop was amazing. Like that like took you out of the island, right?
One thing I always thought of was, why the fuck was Johnny Cage out there?
Right, just wandering this random forest
on a deserted island that you what is like, to me the movie could have been, I mean, it probably was like, it had to be like what, like 70 minutes, 80 minutes maybe.
I can look it up, but I don't think it was that long.
But it wasn't that long. There was a lot of things like that in particular where it's like the tournament is just going. Like, even like the Katana Liu Kang fight where like they just like wrestle for a little bit. He whispers in his ears a couple things. Hey, use the water. What? Use the water. What are you talking about?
What? Yeah.
And then Shang Tsung's like, hey, chill the fuck out. And then it ends in a draw when everybody else has been dying in this tournament. And all of a sudden these two just like are cool. You know what I mean? There was a lot of weird things that they could have expounded on a little bit.
Yeah. Well, what I think what was cool is, like I said, that the MK2 had come out about a year or so before the movie.
Yeah. And
so they were just trying to pepper in some other characters. And like they had Reptile, who was, I think, poorly constructed. And he was the CGI, little creature. But then took shape and form, and that was pretty cool.
That was fire.
Yeah. Once he got into his form, that was pretty awesome. And like I said, they were just sort of sneaking in some things for you, like to say, there's more to this world. Jax got sidelined, I think, by time, because the movie is an hour and 40 minutes. But yeah, Jax seemed to be overkill, right? But he is an MK2 character. I think they were really setting up the next movie, to be honest. Like, it seemed like you had enough where you can revisit characters and say, okay, we've now, you got Jax sitting in the background. You have Reptile, who was introduced, and Kitana, and so the Baraka and all these other characters could eventually make their way. So it was interesting to just kind of see how they were designing the movie. But yeah, in the end, it became a hodgepodge of, we got to get them fighting. We got to have them, in a tournament because that's what the people wanted. And I'm glad they did, because it would have been a bullshit movie if there wasn't a tournament, because that's the whole premise of Mortal Kombat.
But I mean, now we've seen it with this one, which I guess we can like compare now, but this most recent one is not the tournament. And we've seen like things in this one, spoiler alert. I mean, if you haven't seen it, but like Goro dies, and this is pre-tournament, pre-Mortal Kombat, So it's like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like, I'm glad we did get the tournament in the 95 version, but again, if they planned it out right, and there was things with Annihilation that went wrong in terms of like production, and that's why like they changed Raiden. That's why they didn't get Linden Ashby. There was like a bunch of things that happened where they had to switch these characters up. And I think it got to a point where they were like, well, let's just fucking make the movie because it was so successful the first time. Like, let's just throw some shit out there. And I mean, obviously Annihilation was what Annihilation was, but it was clear they had an idea and they just couldn't execute it. Like they couldn't bring it to a second film, which sucks because, again, if we would have got, think about it, if we would have got an elevated second version of this, a sequel of the 95 version that improved on what worked in that movie could have been really good, I mean, with the characters that they did introduce, like they brought a bunch of characters. That was another thing too. It's like, again, at that time, they weren't thinking like in the landscape of now, where it's like there's a universe we can build our lore and really like give everybody separate movies if we have to really build this out. But you could see the seeds were there. Like it could have been way better than it was. Like it could have been a real like trilogy even if they did it right. If the second one, I guarantee if the second one was successful, that we would have got a third one that would have expounded a little bit more. Especially because the games were still popular at that time. I mean, I guess growing too. I mean, because Mortal Kombat 3 was also popular.
I mean, Mortal Kombat 3 was like, holy shit, game changer. Yeah. Because that one introduced the running and introduced the 3D aspects. It was, I mean, so yeah, the games themselves were getting more and more popular. The movies just fizzled out. But I heard on the first movie, again, part of the problem was, how do we get and you're right. If this were today, we were talking completely different. There would have been a whole setup for these movies. But back in 1995, it was just like, we got to get them all on the camera. We got to get them all on the screen,
so that you get toys.
Right. Well, sell the toys and that people get what they want out of a Mortal Kombat movie. Yeah. And that was the key for everybody, was let's make sure we get everybody in there that people want to see, and then people will be happy. And then if the movie is successful, that's a kind of what's been happening. Is a movie is successful, let's do another. This one made lots of money, we can greenlight the second one. But then you've got plot holes and you've got story that's not fully developed, and you go and I think the popular thing was to then elevate it. Say, okay, you Paul W.S. Anderson, you made this one. We're going to give it to somebody else and a better writer, because we want big money. So the script and the feel of the first movie isn't even in the second one. And that's what's tragic about Annihilation, because I mean, this one ended on such a great cliffhanger. I mean, Shao Kahn,
it was kind of ass.
No, but I meant like for us, like we were like, holy shit, Shao Kahn is like.
To be honest, it was like low key. I mean, obviously it wasn't post credit or anything, but kind of was like one of the first like post credit type moments where it's like, oh fuck, we got something to look forward to. Yeah, I agree,
Yeah.
but I think the execution of it was terrible. Like
Oh
him
yeah.
being as big as he was and shit, it was like he looked like a fucking kaiju. Like, you know, like why is he so big
And he was in the sky.
in the sky? Yeah, like that confused me. But I do agree. Like I'm sure when you see it in the theater, like like fuck, bro. Like,
Well,
didn't he come out in Mortal Kombat 2 as well?
yeah.
Oh,
He
so
was,
it had to be a mind blowing moment.
yeah, because we were like, oh my god, this is the big bad from MK2, and he's even big. Like at the moment, he's bigger than Shang Tsung. He's above him, and so you're just like, oh shit, they're gonna have another one. like that was the feel was like, oh damn, we got our happy ending, but we've got something to look forward to. And obviously back then, our expectations weren't, hey, this is going to come out next year. Our expectations were they're going to make a sequel. And we know the sequels take 2, 3 years, 4 years at the time to put one out. So we were like, oh, we get to look forward to it. And then, like I said, we had Mortal Kombat 3, and we had actually Mortal Kombat 3 came out just after this was released.
What,
So
95?
yeah, Mortal
like
Kombat 3 came
96?
out in October, yeah, in 95.
Oh, it came out October 95?
Yeah.
And the second movie came out in 97, I think.
Yeah.
So they rushed that shit.
Oh yeah.
They rushed the fuck out of it.
Yeah, they tried to get it. I mean, they were bleeding money at that point to try to get this movie made, and I think that was a problem. But yeah, I had read about. I mean, we're going to get into Annihilation because we are definitely going to cover that movie. But there were just so many problems going into it that it was like you have to just like it's a miracle it got made, and they just put that shit together. So I mean, like I said, it's the graphics and the stuff was a time capsule for the 90s. It had everything you want. It even had the original characters' voices. Like you had Ed Boon, who was the creator of Mortal Kombat. Frank Welker actually was Shao Kahn, and he was also another character. Let me see here. And Frank Welker is a famous, and he was Reptile. He's a famous, voiceover guy who did. I think he was the voice of Fred and Scooby-Doo and a bunch of different people. So like they had some big talent on there. Oh yeah, John Tobias, who also wrote the video game or made the video game. Boone and Tobias made the games. They were all a part of it. So I think you get to Annihilation, and I think all those elements are gone. Yeah. And that's the problem. And then it becomes a cash grab at that.
No, that's exactly what it was. Like, let's put as many characters as we can and just put something out.
Yeah.
Which again, if they would have built off this first movie, we would have got something maybe not as great in terms of like how it felt, but because again, when I seen it was a couple years after the fact, you know what I mean? And I knew nothing about Mortal Kombat in terms of like I knew it was a game, but I didn't know anything other than that. And it really sucked me in. And like till this day, I am a huge Mortal Kombat fan. I'm just the other day when I was moving and packing my shit, I was like just watching YouTube videos of people describing like people's like lore, like Reptile, like exactly what Reptile's lore is from the first game till now. And it's like, like whenever like he was introduced till now, I was just watching like video after video, like character after character. So I don't know, man. I mean, obviously they dropped the ball, but for what this movie was, to me, still is top 5, if not greatest video game movies that have ever come and did it right. Did it right for the video games itself.
Well, and the funny thing, and I just looked it up because I was curious. The original Super Mario Brothers movie, the one that was classically panned, came out in 93. So I think the appetite, and I think Mortal Kombat is such an upgrade from that. And I think they learned those lessons. Is like give the people that the characters look like they're supposed to look, have them do the moves that they do, right? Like you don't freeform it, don't do your own shit with it. Yeah. Make it exactly what they see in the video games. And the good thing is they had that video reference material so that they can use that, and it's easy at that point. But all the characters look who they're supposed to look like. And I think they learned from that. But that was an interesting. I just happened to look it up because I was like, man, when did the Mario Brothers movie come out? Because that was like the death of video game movies. And then Mortal Kombat came out and did pretty well, and then Annihilation.
Yeah.
Annihilation did what it did. No, I mean, this is let's see. I'm just trying to think of what else was in this movie that oh, I meant to ask you. So we'll just go down the list of the MK1 and MK2 because that's who's in this movie. Your favorite character to play as in MK1?
Yeah, I would say it's probably Scorpion.
Okay.
But I think it's Scorpion for like every game, pretty much. Until like the newer ones, because then I like characters like Kenshi and like newer age characters, but I like characters like that. But like Scorpion for sure was like, I had one of my craziest dreams was kind of like, now that I think about it, the dream itself was kind of like the scene where the Scorpion and Sub-Zero walk in on the boat. It was kind of like that, but like they were like chasing me through like my parents' house, and they were looking for me, and I was hiding under the bed, and I just remember like seeing their boots like walk across, and then I woke up, obviously. But like Scorpion and Sub-Zero were definitely my favorite characters growing up, and even like Reptile. Like I was a fan of all the ninjas. I was a fan that they had different, like, you know, they were dressed similar, but they had like the different powers and stuff. So like I'd say easily like one of the ninjas. It don't even have to be Scorpion, but in any game.
So the MK1, mine was Scorpion, and only because I only knew that move. I only knew the get over here and the uppercut. Yeah. and that was my, you know, I could sling that weapon every single time and was pretty successful. But that was actually the one and only time I actually like had strategy in a fighting game. I'm a button masher, like that's just me. But in that game, well, obviously you've seen me play different video games. You know I'm a button masher. But that was actually the one and only time I actually had like a strategy, and I knew the move sets, and I knew how to maneuver him up and down the screen and where to put him. So it was one of the first characters, and I've used Scorpion in every single iteration of Mortal Kombat that's come out, and I used the same moves, and I tried. But I loved Sub-Zero. I just couldn't figure out how to you know get. It was like Sub-Zero's moveset was opposite of Scorpion, so I just couldn't figure out. After doing it so long, I just couldn't figure it out. But that's been my favorite. And then in MK2, like I said, same thing for me. It's still Scorpion. I know you can play as Shang Tsung and a couple other people in MK2, but again, that was mine. What about MK2? Was it the same?
Same.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but I didn't really get to play. Like, I didn't play those games, to be honest. Like, I played them now, like, more recent. But, like, even, like, as of, like, a couple weeks ago, we went to an arcade bar, and they had Mortal Kombat. They had Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 right by each other, and we were playing it. But, yeah, it was definitely Scorpion. Like, throughout, it was, like, Scorpion. And then you get to, like, the weird characters where they have, like, Freddy Krueger and shit. Like new age shit, and I was using a lot of those kind of characters too. Spawn, obviously, but in terms of like OG Mortal Kombat characters, definitely Scorpion, Sub-Zero. But I got a question for you. You got a favorite moment from this movie? Like you, now that you watched it today, so a little bit more fresh.
I still love when Shang Tsung is introduced, but actually when he takes the soul in on the island, when he like Shang Tsung was just the way he is, it's like perfect character development. It's like perfect, like his introduction is great. But when he's like, your soul is mine, and he's like sucking the life out of it, I can't shake it, because it was so iconic to me at that moment that he says these words. But there was also when the first time he utters "finish him," that's when Sonya is got Kano. That's the first time he says "finish him," and it was like, wow, they did everything they needed to do in this movie. But you know, I'm just a big Shang Tsung fan in the movie. What about you? What
you have? He's the best character. Yeah. My favorite moment. Honestly, it's a random moment, but Liu Kang and Johnny Cage, when they meet on the dock,
Oh
He
yeah.
said, here's $100 to carry my luggage. He grabs the money. He's like, got you. It throws it in the water. He's like, you can see like I deserve that. You know, like I
Yeah.
deserve that shit. Like what the fuck was I thinking? But
That was a
honestly,
dick move.
yeah, Johnny Cage's character, like just in terms of like, he wasn't like comedic relief really. Because to be honest, it wasn't really like there was funny moments, but they weren't like supposed to be funny. But like when he's like, those are $30,000 glasses, asshole, whatever he says, or $5,000 sunglasses, asshole. Like they're not intentionally supposed to be funny, but like to me, they make me laugh and like lighten the mood, and that's exactly like to me embodies Johnny Cage. I think I'd say he's my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah. No, I mean he has some of the best lines. Um, and he's like, I think sometimes he's the voice of the viewer.
Audience,
Yeah, the audience, because it's like he's like, what the hell is going on? Like,
yeah.
what is this shit?
He says he's like, you got a guy that throws thunder, you got a guy that got that freezes things. He's like, what the hell is going on here?
Right, exactly. It's like, what is this shit? Oh man. But
in his head, he's like, my agent told me I got a gig, and this is what he puts me in, like life-threatening shit.
Yeah, and that was the scary part, right? With Shang Tsung turned into different characters to get you all to come into this.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was the only one that did that. But
yeah.
Was it? No, I don't think. Yeah, I think he did that for like which again, it could have got expounded on, like why did he pick Johnny Cage? You know, like in the movie itself, explain why this actor, like guy was pompous. Obviously, he showed his skills throughout the movie, beat Scorro and shit, but just in the beginning, it's like why? It's like because he beat a couple fucking stuntmen. You know what I mean? Like, who are these guys?
Yeah, I think, and this is where what it doesn't do really well is like there's actually a newspaper clippings or some stuff of that Johnny Cage used to be like a karate master, right? Like he's won awards, and now he's Hollywood, right? Now he's a stunt guy, and I think that's kind of what they needed, is a little bit more backstory exposition. But it was like in a newspaper clipping, like it's a quick blink and you miss it type scene. It's like you see it in the background and that's it. Like, so if you didn't catch that, that's where you're like, well, why Johnny Cage?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's again, I'm not saying that it's bad to I mean, Bruce Lee was the master, right? Like you want to emulate his shit, but it's almost the exact same boat scene, and which is, again, I love it because I think it's a nod, right? It's like hey, we're doing a nod to a really classic film, but it kind of just worked out that way, and it's great, and I love seeing the contrast between the two scenes. But I mean, listen, man, this, like I said, I went to the theater, man, and I was so excited. The music hit, and it was just an amazing experience, man. Like I'll set the scene for you, right? Because I know you're much younger than I am. When we went to the arcades, right? Like there were some big, huge arcades that we used to go to, and it wasn't just the 7-Eleven. Like 7-Eleven had Street Fighter. Like that's my thing. And when I was 7-Elevens, I played Street Fighter all day long. But like when you went to the big arcades, man, like you could not walk up to a Mortal Kombat game. You couldn't. Like it was 10 deep of people waiting to play, and then a whole crowd of people just watching. And they had the sound cranked at like 10. So you heard every punch, and you heard every finish them, every get over here. And it was just like amazing. And then when you got to finally play the game, you had never seen anything like it. And so making that leap from what I saw as a kid playing the video game to being on the screen was just a magical moment for me. And it was like, this is a great movie. And like I said, when I watched it today, I was thoroughly entertained. It wasn't like I was nitpicking, or I was just enjoying the hell out of the story and the movie and the characters. And yeah, like I said, the CGI is what it is, but like, I don't look at movies that way. I know the time it came from, and I know that shit today, in today's standards, the CGI is way better, but the movie still holds up, at least to me.
The rewatchability to that movie, at least if you if you grew up and enjoy it, because I'm sure nobody's gonna watch it now and be like, yeah, I need to see that movie again. But in terms of like being a fan of the movie itself, like when I watch it, I'm like, yeah, it's a good film. Like for me, at least, it hits a lot of beats that I like. Of course, I would, as a fan of Mortal Kombat, I would have wanted more things in it. But for what it is, the time it came, being kind of innovative in terms of like video game genre, like it did its job and it's really good. And we get to shit on Annihilation next, you know, because
Yeah.
I like Annihilation. Like I can't not say I don't like Annihilation, but I like Annihilation because it's so bad, and it kind of like it's like a cheesy Saturday morning cartoon. Like it's cool for that reason. Like I know why it's bad. I know why it sucks. I know it's not a good movie, but I'll rewatch it just to be like, this movie sucks. But like it still has like some, because again, I remember going to Blockbuster when I found out there was a second Mortal Kombat. I was like, I need to see this movie. And I watched it. I even remember like as a kid watching it and being like, this movie sucks ass, but I needed it. Like I wanted to see again when you're young and you see Shao Kahn pull up, you're like, yo, I gotta see what's gonna happen. Like you kind of get the answers of what's gonna happen, but obviously it's we'll talk about it.
We will. Oh yeah, it was really bad. Yeah, I was just trying to see if there's anything else. There was an interesting tidbit here. It talks about that when you see the scene with Johnny Cage, that the director was supposed to be Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
like
I remember him.
He was a fan. He was a fan of the movie in the Mortal Kombat series, and he wanted to make a cameo. And for whatever reason didn't make it, but they made the guy look like Steven Spielberg, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think this has been fun, man. I think this was a fun discussion to go back to Mortal Kombat and just really get, give it its due, and like I said, in rewatching it, I understand now where I was, and I loved it, and I still love it to this day. So, I think for the next or for another Be Kind Rewind, we're definitely going to talk about Mortal Kombat Annihilation. That's definitely coming. And yes, we need to revisit the newest Mortal Kombat movie, which is the one that started the Sunday night live stream. For us to revisit that and talk about how
I'd like to compare it, because in a lot of ways it's like the new one did a lot. I mean, we'll talk about it. Because I feel like the new one improved on a lot of things, but the old one did a lot of things better.
Yeah. I mean, just the blood and guts alone, which again Mortal Kombat is known for now even more, was I think that's what makes that movie. And I bought it. I bought the movie. It holds a sentimental value, obviously, because of how we started. So I bought the movie. I make sure I have that one on physical media. I do watch it from time to time. It's just but I love how violent it is. That's the thing. I love violence in movies. I love severed heads. I love all kinds of stuff, man. This is what, again, for Mortal Kombat, that's what I'm looking for. And the video games are next level, man. Like the new one's coming out, MK1. That's another.
That's gonna be a good one. I played a lot of the games, but I'm just not good at story games. But Mortal Kombat 1's got my interest in terms of the story. And just a fun fact, I think I told you about it though. But our 100th episode of the Llama Show, I went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and in the Buffalo Wild Wings, the Mortal Kombat movie, the newest one, was playing. And I was like, that's hilarious. Like that's the universe right there.
That is a sign. All
right, man.
All right. So I think we've I think that's it for the Be Kind Rewind tonight. I want to say thank you to Blackout AD for joining me on tonight's podcast.
Appreciate it, man. I'm glad we got it in, man. Because there was a world we didn't do this.
Right. We had some scheduling issues, but it all worked out for sure. So guys, if you want to follow Blackout AD, he's on Twitch, blackout_AD. You can follow him on Twitch, and he is on YouTube as well under Blackout GG. go to that channel and you will find the late night podcast, right? Late night with Birdie and AD. He's the host of that show. And he's also has another show with Roman 2 Raw, the pre-Llama show. And so again, if you want to hear more from AD, that's where you can do that. If you want to support the Big Llama, go to the YouTube channel, go to the YouTube, the Big Llama Show, like and subscribe to that channel. Also, if you're listening to this on your podcast, make sure you like the Be Kind Rewind podcast. And we also have the Sunday night live stream every Sunday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to myself and AD break down all the week's events and things. And we're on your podcast also. So look for the Big Llama Show on your podcast. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you, Blackout AD, as always. Sure. I appreciate you coming on the show. This is the Be Kind Rewind podcast. Make sure that you like and subscribe. And again, remember, I can't speak English now.
Dick, fuck, shit.
Now I got to get that out of there. That'll be a great start to it. Now, Be Kind Rewind. It's movie night. We're going to see you guys on the next one.
Sleep on,
everybody. Sleep.
First off, I don't care what you people say. Never follow rules. I'm a trendsetter anyway. Okay, I march to the beat of my own drum. They say I need rules in my life. Well, I got some. That's 1. Kill the competition. 2. Be a loyal dog. 3. And if they snitching on your man, send them to the mall. 4. When you party, go hard till you hit the floor. 5. If you didn't see me do it, what the hell you asking for? Welcome to my world. SINA.